Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women in Motorsports. Joe Samaniego here, along with Dan Winseri from Racers Girls Based Helmet, reporting from Monza this weekend. Dan, what are some of the activities?
Hello, everyone. Nice to hear about this weekend here. As you mentioned, we are in Monza. We are following GT Open. And also TCR Europe, that is also racing here as a support series. But we also have a P Europa Cup with the two female drivers here. One is Gojar Dest, a former W Series racer, of course, but also Michel Halder, a pretty big name in touring cars racing here in TCR Europe. So it's going to be a pretty interesting weekend here.
Sounds like a very interesting weekend. Monza, the Temple Speed, just recently had F1, now GTO racing. Very exciting. And for Doriane Pin, another exciting weekend. What has been a tremendous season for her in 2022.
Oh, it really was. It's another perfect weekend for Doriane. Another 2 pole positions and 2 fastest laps and 2 race victories. Ferrari Challenge is really going well for Doriane this year. She has been really dominant, and I would say that if she doesn't, of course we know that Iron Dames are gonna help her step up in the bigger championships. But after Michel getting winning the season last year, it's going to be pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it's looking pretty good for Doriane to repeat that same success for Iron Dames that have really been investing on this program in Ferrari Challenge, which is a championship that is often overlooked, I would say. But Iron Dames really proved with the Michel Gatting and now with Doriane Pin that is really it's a really improving ground, and it's really good stepping stone for the bigger GT3 championships, of course, especially in the Ferrari machinery, because of course Iron Dames are competing in the Ferrari 488 GT3 in GT World Challenge Europe, and with the GTE cars in both ELMS and WEC. So of course they are also racing in European Le Mans Series this weekend in Spa for the 4-hour Spa, and Doriane is also part of that lineup. So she will back after that very solid weekend in Ferrari Challenge. I would say that now we have 2 more rounds to go. So we have the Mugello and then the Finale Mondiale, the World Finals in Imola, and she really has the opportunity to clinch both the European title and the world title. So in the bigger category, which is the Trofeo Pirelli, because we have the Trofeo Pirelli, which is for the pro drivers, and the Shell Trophy, which is for the AM or Pro-Am drivers. She's competing among the big guys, and she's doing extremely well, dominating all weekend. Let's say that out of 10 races this year, she has been she had 8 pole positions and 8 race victories. She only missed on 2 wins in Paul Ricard, the second round of the season, where she was actually on the podium after a tire blow in race 1, and then another issue in qualifying in race 2. So even though if she had a not a great weekend there, she still managed to get on the podium. And then all the other weekends were really dominant, and the performances from the young French woman, 18-year-old for Doriane. And I believe that Iron Dames are really on something with Doriane. She's really one of the brightest GT talents that we have around. Not only females, but overall, I would say. And she's really proving it in Ferrari Challenge. It was really another remarkable weekend for Doriane. And as I mentioned, she is now going straight to Spa Francorchamps, where the European Le Mans Series is contesting the 4 hours of Spa. And with Rahel Frey stepping down from the ELMS lineup, we now have Doriane also having some, doing some mileage in the GTE car. She previously contested the Spa, the 6 hour of Spa in WEC at the beginning of the season, when she was, in place of Sarah Bovey when she had a positive COVID test. And then, of course, she was also part of the four driver lineup that won the class in the 24 hours Spa. So another pretty big weekend coming up for Doriane Pin, who is really, really closing in on her first title in Ferrari Challenge.
Closing in on her first title in Ferrari Challenge. It's been spectacular this year. And then, as you mentioned, stepping up for when Sarah Bovey was out, GTE experience. Seems like the sky's the limit when it comes to 2023. Do you see potential routes she may venture into in 2023 after this successful year?
That's a really important question, especially because we have to see and monitor the FIA categorizations for next year, because of course some of the drivers will change their categorization, and in the both the WEC and European Le Mans Series, of course the teams are based on the categorization. So we have Sarah Bovey, who is a bronze driver right now, and she is really one of the fastest bronze in the world right now. Then we have Michel Gatting, who is a silver-rated drivers, and Rahel Frey, who is a gold-rated driver. And they're competing in the GTE category, so which is important to have a bronze driver there. But if the categorizations are changing, especially after all the success that these 3 drivers have together, if the categorization are changing for next year, we will potentially see a lineup swap among all the championship that the Iron Dames are doing. So far it's still a bit of a gamble to understand what driver are going to do what. So far Doriane is a silver-rated driver because she's young. She has some experience also in some single seaters in the past. So I believe that it's still a bit early to understand what championship she's doing, but she's now in the big ELMS team, so potentially she has the opportunity to stay there, and the other driver is still a bit of a question mark so far.
ELMS, that could be a good route. A question from a person in the chat room saying live, could she come to IMSA? That's an interesting question. Daniel, any thoughts on potentially IMSA route? Because we're seeing sports car racing is really starting to change in 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, that's one of the other biggest questions for next year for Iron Dames. We don't know. Of course, they are doing all the big programs here in Europe, but who knows if they have the interest and the budget and everything to put together also a program in IMSA. That would be really extremely cool. So who knows? I hopefully they will at some point do some races in the US, of course, because so far it's kind of the only step that they're missing. with IMSA, especially the 24 Hour of Daytona. That could be a cool program for them. But so far, we do not have any specific information on this.
We'll definitely be following the course throughout the year, and we'll be reporting right here on this program and day in life. I think you probably joined a little late. Which track you at? Daniel's at Monza today, so very excited to have Daniel reporting from Monza, the Temple of Speed. Now, of course, when it comes to speed here in the United States, the National Hot Rod Association, some of the fastest racers on the planet, top fuel, nearly or exceeding 300 miles per hour, depending on the conditions. And Maple Grove Raceway in Pennsylvania was site of the opening round of the 2022 NHRA Countdown. Their version of a playoff system has been around since 2007 after NASCAR implemented their playoffs in 2005. 6 races to determine the champion of the NHRA top 4 classes, and we begin with Pro Stock. And Pro Stock, that is where we're looking at Erica Enders. She ended the regular season as the point leader. She qualified second, made it to the final round, and she took the win. She is a multiple-time champion in Pro Stock. She now has an 81 points lead over second place Greg Anderson. Camille Caruso, the other female in Pro Stock, qualified 11th, but unfortunately did not get out of the first round. Tough break for her. She is also in the countdown, as I mentioned. But for Erica Anders, a great start for her championship run in the National Hot Rod Association Pro Stock Bike. This is where we have several female racers. We'll start off with Angie Smith. She qualified second, and she made all the way to the final round, taking second place. Angelle Saint-Prix was 4th fastest, but was eliminated in the second round of competition. Then Karen Stouffer qualified 10th, but she was out in the first round. All of them in the countdown, and Angie leaves Maple Grove with a 49-point deficit in 4th place, right behind her. Angelle Saint-Prix is 5th, 78 points behind, and Karen is 9th, 116 points away from the points leader. Then we go to Funny Car. Alexis DeJoria had a poor qualifying effort, 10th place. She was eliminated in the first round. Just not a good weekend for her, especially this is the opening race for the countdown. Only female in Funny Car in the countdown. She is right now in 9th place, 163 points away from the points lead. Now we go to Top Fuel, the fastest class. And Brittany Force, she qualified the fastest. She ended the regular season as the points leader. However, big upset. She was eliminated in round 2 by the 8th fastest in qualifying, Antron Brown. Of course, Antron won the fastest racer, a champion in the National Hot Rod Association, pulled off the upset by knocking off the top qualifier. Leah Pruitt, who is also in Top Fuel, she qualified 10th, but was eliminated in the first round of competition. So right now, Brittany Force lost the points lead, but she's only 9 points behind the points leader of Top Fuel right now, Justin Ashley. Leah Pruitt is 9th in the points, 107 behind the points leader. So already we're seeing quite a lot of shakeup in the National Hot Rod Association countdown towards the championship. The next race is going to kick off today with the Bedway Carolina Nationals at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, North Carolina, Charlotte, just right outside. There's the 4-wide drag strip. That's where they're going to be, right there along Brooklyn Smith Road. So very exciting turnout for the National Hot Rod Association, and they count down towards the end of their season as they go from the East Coast, because it's the last race in the East Coast, all the way to the West Coast, where Pomona, California, site of the final race of the 2022 season. It's going to be very exciting to see how they all perform throughout the remaining races. And Daniel, I know going from some of the most high-tech, fastest cars to Goodwood Revival, a lot of historic machines that made racing what it is today. And we saw quite a few drivers out there this past weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the best events for really car enthusiasts. You see some of the best cars in history. There's some really special machinery there with some of the collectors, and it's a really cool event. It really brings you back in time, and when you see also the track. It's still a very traditional track, a Goodwood. with which is some, it's not like 2 days tracks where you have long straights and then tight hairpins with that, or chicanes that are specifically designed to help overtakes. Those are really tracks that followed the natural surroundings, so you have like more bigger corners, and this is something that really brought these cars back to what they were designed for. And so it was a beautiful event. In the opening race of the weekend on last Friday, we had quite a special lineup, because it was the first all-female lineup in the Goodwood Revival. We had Katarina Kivalova, who is quite a star in classic car racing. She has a huge experience in classic cars. She's a car collector, so the car was she owned the car. It was a 1954 Cooper Jaguar, and they were racing. She was racing together with Simone Di Silvestro, so a IndyCar race, IndyCar star, and that was quite a big weekend for Di Silvestro, because she was coming straight from the season finale in Laguna Seca for IndyCar. From very different machinery, straight to Goodwood to test for the first time a 1954 machine. So that was quite interesting to see. And Katarina told us that it was actually the very first time that Simona had driven a classic car, so it was quite a big jump, going straight to Goodwood and to actually race that car, because and she also told us that car is not easy at all to handle. It likes to slide a lot around, and it's quite it's quite a difficult car to handle. So and they were ninth in the 1 hour race. The first part of the race, Katarina was in the car. They started from 8th position. She managed to climb a couple of positions up. Then after the pit stop, they were back to P8, P9, and then in the very last laps, Simona had quite a good race. She was quickly on the pace, and she ultimately was P9. She couldn't hold on to P8 at the very end, and she was P9. So top 10 for the very first all-female lineup for the Goodwood Revival. It was really cool to see. We do have an interview coming up this coming week with Katarina. So she is really an interesting character in the world of classic car racing, but also she's racing also contemporary cars, because she also owns a Mercedes AMG GT4 that she races in 24-hour series by Creventic. She won the class in GT4 class at the Portimao 24-hour, and she also raced in the 24-hour Dubai earlier this year. So it was, she's not only racing classic cars, but which obviously they have very different challenges. For example, she raced at the Monaco Historique this year, which is raced on the same F1, on the same track in the Monaco street circuit that Formula One races. But of course with the classic cars, and also she raced at the Le Mans Classic with a 24-hour race with classic cars, which is a huge challenge, because of course these cars have are not as reliable as contemporary racing machinery. And also she's racing in Mille Miglia and then also Goodwood, so pretty big experience in classic car racing. It was really cool to see her teaming up with Simone Di Silvestro, and hopefully we will see them again in the future for some more events like that.
Yeah, we really want to see them in more events, and of course, classic car racing, Goodwood, iconic events that a lot of people know about. Something I think on everyone's bucket list to experience, especially if you're a true motorsport enthusiast. Now, when it comes to motorsports, we all talk about, some of the top series, historical, but of course the feeder system, those are really sort of the life and blood of motorsports, because that's where the new talent is coming up. And we know one of the big stories, Jamie Chadwick got the opportunity to test an Indy Lights car prepared by Andretti Autosport. The two-time W Series champion may potentially enter the series as a part of the Road to Indy feeder ladder system. Of course, a lot of folks know that series goes from essentially USF 2000 to Indy Pro to Indy Lights to the top one, IndyCar, and of course the Indianapolis 500. However, according to Nathan Brown from the Indy Star in USA Today, the prize money funds have been reduced with Anderson Promotion out of the picture. Of course, they used to be part of the Indy Lights Management Group, and now it's only Penske Entertainment, which owns IndyCar. We saw the funds reduced because essentially Anderson Promotion's out of it. According to Brown, last year Kyle Kirkwood $1.2 million combined from Penske Entertainment and Anderson Promotion for winning the Indy Lights Championship. This year, Linus Lundqvist, $500,000 from Penske, but you don't have that other half. Yes, there's some race winnings in there that could equal up to about 700,000, but it's still just not exactly the same. Daniel, we know funding for the feeder system is really starting to get challenging out there. Does this just make it harder and put more on the drivers now to find more funded?
Yeah, this is one of the topics that I was also researching on this week, because of course, as you mentioned with Jamie, potentially moving up to Indy Lights, that's very interesting to learn more about all the feeder programs in the road to Indy. Also, we have the USF juniors joining the program, so with next year also with Formula 4 cars. So I think it was really an important program for IndyCar that was really setting it apart from the European ladder, where you're really on your own, basically, from straight from Formula 4 to Formula 3 regional, and then the FIA Formula 3 and Formula 2. You're quite on your own, and budgets are really skyrocketing, and especially for these young drivers coming up from karting at 14, 15. It is a big task, to find some 300,000 euro for a Formula 4 championship, for a national Formula 4 championship. So I do believe that still the road to Indy has an advantage as a gap in compared to the European ladder. But of course, this is going to be an issue, because if this is confirmed to be true, the cut in the prize funding for Indy Lights could potentially have repercussions on all the previous championships, so USF Juniors and USF 2000 and Indy Pro 2000 and Indy Lights, because of course we know that the driver that won Indy Lights was had the opportunity to step up to IndyCar with at least some of the races confirmed, some of the covered as a budget. If that is no more the case, and especially if a driver like Linus Lundqvist that won Indy Lights this year could potentially struggle to join IndyCar, that could be could have repercussions on all the system, could have systemic repercussions on all the other cities. And this comes also in a particular time where the championship were really starting to grow again after the well-known issues that in the pandemic. Of course, Indy Lights missed a championship in 2020. And then the grids were not really as big as they deserved, and now it comes in a time where the grids were starting to grow again, and a lot of European drivers were looking into the road to Indy program to find potentially a pathway to IndyCar. Still, I believe that while it is surely an issue, and as you mentioned, the Pedersen organization had set up a very good standard for that so far Penske probably has not really lived up to that same expectations. But still, I think there is still an advantage, a competitive advantage to go to the road to Indy, because there's still possibly the prize money is not up to, it's not at a point where you can make the jump straight to IndyCar, but you do have a scholarship program that here you do not have, you simply do not have. So but it's going to be interesting to monitor what this means also for the junior championships in the Road to Indy program.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Road to Indy and the scholarship and everything. I know day in life, I hope more money comes from Mr. Penske. I think that's sort of what everyone's hoping for. But of course, there's only so much one can do. Now, Jamie Chadwick, she's has an advantage. She's two-time W Series champion, en route to potentially her third Series championship, international name recognition from Extreme E, racing all over Europe, test sessions with, well, at least signed with some teams, like she was part of the Jaguar Formula E team, Williams. Does he have a sort of that advantage of that name recognition? Do you believe her tenure over in Europe W Series will be enough to attract sponsors if we do see a reduction in some of the prices for potentially if she wanted to go to that next step of IndyCar?
That's a very important point because yes, to some extent, I do believe so that she kind of have that advantage, but still, she couldn't make the leap into FIA Formula 3. To find the budget somewhere, and she is a part of the Williams F1 driver academy, but that has so far not allowed her to find the seat that she wanted in FIA Formula 3 or even Formula 2. So she's now potentially joining Indy Lights. This test is a very good first step, of course, with a very, very important team, which is kind of the benchmark in Indy Lights as Andretti Autosport. So I do believe that also with the ties that W Series has this year with the American audience, with the American market, because W Series is really trying to expand more in the US. That could potentially help her to get some American sponsors, and that is the thing that everyone hopes for Jamie for next year.
And you mentioned over here American market. One of the things we've noticed, especially in the US, some of the feeder system like ARCA, which of course stock cars, Indy Lights, smaller car counts. ARCA East has been having a smaller car count, ARCA in general. In Europe, is the same effect occurring in some of the feeder system with smaller car counts, especially with the potential challenging times economically?
Yes, I would say that that's a very important concept, very good concept that you have over there, but we do not have it here. And so I think it's something that could be worked on, because definitely, as you mentioned, with some of tougher times coming up, economically, I do not believe that it's going to be sustainable for long. This kind of ladder coming from, especially in the single seaters, because for GT racing, still working out, touring cars still working out, but in single seater ladder is really coming to a point where it's not going to be sustainable for long, especially when Formula 4 championships are going to be so expensive, and then you're stepping up to Formula Regional, which is really a lot more expensive, and then FIA Formula 3 and Formula 2 really are championships that right now only drivers really linked with F1 teams or big sponsors, or big pockets from their families. They otherwise they cannot afford it. So that this is something that really should be looked into it in the future.
Of course, we'll be following this story and, of course, more, especially on Grid Encore, where they cover ARCA, Indy Lights, all the series, and then Grid Tonight, Motorsports Weekly News home. So, Daniel, we got to ask you before we go off the air, what are some of the big races besides the events in Monza are you going to be following this weekend?
Sorry. One has to be European Le Mans Series, as I mentioned, in Spa, 4-hour Spa with Iron Dames, so Doriane Pin, Michel Gatting, and Sarah Bovey. Bovey is one of the 4 Belgian drivers racing at the 4-hour Spa this weekend. They're coming back after the win of the 24-hour Spa in the Gold Cup. So it's going to be pretty a big race for Iron Dames. Then here, of course, we have the GT Open. We have the Alpine Europa Cup and TCR Europe, as I mentioned, with Michel Hauler in TCR Europe, Margot Verza and Gojardès in the Alpine Europa Cup. Then my colleague Vivian is currently at Sachsenring to follow ADAC TCR Germany, where Jessica Bachmann as being one of the main protagonists of that championship. She had a change. She changed team before this weekend, so she's now at Come to You, and is coming from the Hyundai machinery. She is now swapping to the Audi. So it's going to be also interesting to follow, and my colleague is there. Then we have DTM Trophy at Red Bull Ring with Sophie Hoffmann racing in Austria, and also BMW M2 Cup at the Red Bull Ring. Then we have over there in the US, we have the GT World Challenge America at Sebring with 2 female drivers, Erin Vogel and Ashton Harrison. And we know that also Ashton will be joined by Christina Nielsen for the final race 8 hours in Indianapolis. So it's going to be also a pretty good team, and they are also competing for the Pro-Am Championship there. TC America also with a couple of female drivers, then BTCC, NASCAR Mexico, and Extreme E, as you mentioned, and Extreme E is back on track after quite a long wait for them, because it's not a big calendar, only 5 events, and 1 was in the same weekend, so 4 weekends for Extreme E this year. But yeah, they're racing in Chile. And we'll be following also, as we know, the format is quite interesting with one male and 1 female driver. And Mikaela Olin-Kotulensky, Swedish driver for the Rosberg team, is currently leading the championship.
And we encourage everyone, be sure to visit the website, racesbehindthehelmet.com. There you get a full listing of all the races going on this weekend, and of course, stories throughout the week from the website. And of course, be sure to subscribe to us right here on the Grid Network. Tomorrow, Grid Live pre-race will be on the air preview NASCAR and MotoGP. Sunday, we're going to wrap it all up. And then Monday, Grid Encore, hosted by Ben and Brandon. They're going to recap some of the series such as Xfinity Series, some of the feeder series as well, Moto2, Moto3 with Joshua Birch. Then Wednesday, Grid Tonight will be on the air, and then we'll do this all over again next Friday. A big thank you to our Patreon, calling the show, Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air. Click on the link below to join our Patreon or buy me a coffee, a one-time contribution. Also, be sure to visit public.com. Use the referral code GRIDNET. Get $5 in free stock. Start building your stock market portfolio and investing in the stock market. And of course, we encourage everyone, once again, comment, like, and subscribe to us right here on the Grid Network on YouTube. We'll be on the air, and we'd love to hear more of your thoughts and opinions. For Daniel Zeri from Race of the Girls Behind the Helmet at Monza, I'm Joe Samdiego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDNET for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.